so that we can at least politically have a seat at NATO, the world governing bodies, superpowers, where we can also be counted. Right now, all of us, 55 of us, we don't even have a single seat, not even a secretariat desk where we are considered as human beings. It's North Atlantic Agreement. And every time foxes are discussing their diet, you can be sure that lambs will be on the menu.
Yes, greetings and welcome all to this powerful and brilliant conversation from Joshua Maponga, the farmer of thought, toward a united Africa. What I need from you is to watch this video until the end. If you have anything, please share with us on the comment section. You are welcome. Listen and watch what Maponga is telling African leaders toward a united Africa.
What happens is so disheartening. Just our neighboring DRC, for about 3 decades, they've been at war. Different African countries, go to Central Africa Republic, go to West Africa, there's coups every other time, civil wars, and so much of these unrest. Could African leaders, or can African leaders, get to agree on one purpose for the unity of this continent?
Question number 1, which I would throw back at you. Show me one African country that is producing bombs. Show me one African country that is manufacturing guns. Show me one African country that is manufacturing the weapons. Show me one African country that is printing US dollars. Show me one of them. And then walk up into any of those war zones to find a solution for yourself. Pick up those guns. Find out where they were manufactured. How they entered the country. Who sold them. Who delivered them. Who is making money out of them. And it's a simple nutshell for you, young man. It will be to assert to you that when war begins, it may start off as a tribal war. But where we are right now, there is a third force that is playing in the wings to facilitate the conflicts of families. And as the proverb, African proverb says, when brothers fight each other to death, the foreigner will always eat the spoils. So the foreign countries, and I will not isolate them, America, Europe, and China, many of them, if not most of them, are in the DRC, creating landing strips in the midst of nowhere. And on those landing strips, they fly their private jets, collect minerals, put them in their flights, and they fly out without even going through the borders and etc. Because these are war-torn zones. These are war-torn countries. So as long as war continues, immigration and customs does not apply. We talk to the chief, ask him to fight the other chief, chase people away from their village, move your soldiers in, protect the village, get the miners and excavators in, scoop as much as you can, fill up your bags and fly. So we cannot be naive at this day and age to think that Africans are fighting each other. Africans are fighting each other, but someone is benefiting every time the African dies from the bullets of another African. So ask me the question, who are the sponsors of those wars? And I'll tell you without mixing my words, you won't find a single black hand that is involved in the sponsorships of those wars. We are ponies, run errand boys, who kill our own people to please our colonial masters. And that is the reality of the wars in Africa. Why? Somalia and Mali still at war. Look at the Arabs who have an interest in the oil there, the Totals and the Caltexes and etc. and the BPs etc. If this oil is dug and is dumped on the market, what will happen to their market share? What will happen? So please keep them at war so that the oil does not go through. What happens if the Congo diamonds and cobalt is put on the market, or the diamonds of De Beers in South Africa, the diamonds of Arawep will go down. So please keep them at war. Then you can indirectly smuggle these diamonds into the system, because once this happens and business becomes legitimate, they are landlords, they are warlords who are camouflaging themselves as banks, as economic revolutionaries, but they have nothing to do with your economy. They have everything to do with protecting their empires. And these are Anglo-Saxon empires. These are European empires. These are Russian oligarch empires who are looking for tentacles to own estates of production and value and resources wherever they can find them, and they need to protect So wherever there's oil right now, if Zambia could be, if you could discover today that there is oil in Zambia, get ready for war. And then ask yourself, who has interest in oil? You don't need to go very far. Just go to the warlords who are the big market shareholders of oil, and you know who will sponsor the war here. Whether it comes through a white man, a black man, or an Indian man, doesn't matter, but go back and follow the trail of money. You will find some big oil sharks who are disgusting. But no, we can't allow that to happen.
Are able to attain this cause to coexist with the former colony?
They transported, or rather exported, their enmities to us. The war between the World War I and World War II, and the Cold Wars that we find where Germans are fighting the French are fighting the British and the Italians and the Portuguese and and now when they came for the scramble of Africa, and then the same enmities of Europe,
yes,
were moved to a different geographical location. So that if the British and the Portuguese or the British and the French were at war, then you find that the Anglo-Saxons, who is Rhodesia, South and Northern Rhodesia, and the Francophones, which now becomes Congo and etc. So you cannot deal with this. You'd find that Zimbabwe and Zambia and Malawi would find it easier to do business with Kenya, jumping over other countries that are pro, and would find it easier to do business with Nigeria, because here they are French people. So wherever the British were, then there's an artificial border which is economic, where the Roman Dutch laws and principles are entrenched. Then you would find that you would link up the Francophones, they would create their own Francophone, the Germans would create their own thing, the Italians would do the same thing, the British would do the same thing, and the Dutch in South Africa would do the same thing. So you would say it's a typical, very colonial mindset, where you are given a set of enemies to inherit from your colonial masters. So if the British don't like these people, as an African, you must not like them also. We find this very relevant in our modern day, whether it is Russian war, American wars, Saddam Hussein wars, and Israeli wars, and Ukraine wars. In all of Africa, we're all putting flags up. Ukraine this, Russia this, America this, Saddam Hussein this, Syria this, Israeli this. Even Africans putting their posters on, Israel. You wonder of where do we buy these allegiances?
You've talked about more of these borders. Now, the Republican president of Zimbabwe, President Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa, is on record quoted, talking to the Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, asking him to be protected from Zambia because he feels the U.S. has infiltrated this region or this country of Zambia, so he feels threatened. He's on record quoted to ask for protection. How do you take, what do you make of that?
We are just waking up as Zimbabwe from the sanctions of America,
right,
which come with regime change principles and expectations from that. Now, when you hear that your neighbor is signing more treaties of bilateral agreements and etc., of course, good for, quote unquote, his province or his country. But when the enemy of NATO moves its military bases into Ukraine, ask me why does Putin start loading up his guns?
Why?
And preparing his bombs. I mean, when you hear that the enemy who was 5,000 kilometers away is now sitting next door to you, how would you feel? How would you feel if you know that your neighbor next door, he's got a snake in his bag? Right now, Africa, we need to send one political statement across. And I don't even care which president could be listening to this. The policies and the new movement for African youth, we are moving away from the West. We are moving away from Britain. We are moving away from America. We are moving away from that whole thing. We would rather start dealing with new abusers that we have accepted ourselves, rather than the abusers who imposed themselves on us. So the principle we are basically working on is that we no longer need as much American money as we used to, because American money is very expensive. Very expensive. It comes with a big token in front of cultural transformation, which we have never expected from the Americans, but they demand it. That part of the reason that they can give you this money, they want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things done. And you need to pass it in your parliament so that they can come from their countries and abuse your kids and sleep with your boys and do etc. And you can't do nothing to them. Now, when you get to the Chinese people who are purely interested in the business, yes, it's another form of colonialism. I'm not mixing my words. It's another form of colonialism.
Right.
But it's a better colonialism to a certain extent, because the Chinaman is not coming here and telling you to say, stop making children with women, start improving on this, starting improving on this. So it becomes a bit dangerous. So in all honesty, we are not necessarily apologetic to the new paradigm shift where Africa is beginning to look east, is beginning to look Middle East, and looking for new types of money, because the Americans and the British, their demands on our culture are slightly too preposterous, and they're demanding out of us what we've never demanded from them. The respect is not mutual, and the terms and conditions that are applying are not practical to African culture. At the United Africa.
Great. The history that Africa depicts is of having had a different type of leadership. Back there were kings, there were chiefs, and now Africa has been on a path of democratization, different kind of leadership altogether. If we are to attend the United Africa, what kind of leadership are we looking at, or should we sort for?
Maybe in terms of introduction, we may need to address ourselves. I know this might sound very, very radical, but it's true that all African governments are illegitimate. All of them.
Illegitimate?
Illegitimate. Except maybe one or two. That could be Swaziland and Lesotho. Maybe a bit of Ethiopia.
Could you qualify that statement?
Because these governments, why do I say all of them are illegitimate? Even Swaziland and Lesotho, I still would have a problem with them, for the very fact that the evils of the Berlin Conference gives them the authority over territories which are colonially designed, not ethnically practical and possible. So if you should walk around right now, Swaziland, for example, in as much as I give them an exception, you have Swaziland right into Mpumalanga, into Witbank, Swazis, genuine Swazis, Khamenis, Fakutzes, Nisis, full. They still go to Swaziland for their ceremonies and etc. You get to Lesotho, whole of Free State, from Bloemfontein, right up into Senegal, coming up into Bethlehem and Kwakwa area, huge vast sums of land, which the white men, of course, pushed the king away and they claimed these lands. And now the king is sitting on the mountain there and his people are outside. They still go to Lesotho for ceremonies and etc. Interesting that the Lozis, the Bembas and the Tongas who find themselves in Namibia, in Angola and in Zimbabwe would still be crossing the river Zambezi to come and celebrate their festivals in Zambia. Same thing with Malawi. I hear there's a king on the border who lives in one side of the country and he crosses over to the other side of the country to administer to his people there. So when you begin to look at this kind of leadership that we had, I would want firstly to say, had the white men been aware of our cultural boundaries, maybe the political boundaries, and I'm happy when you get into your geography books, they give you what they call economic borders.
Yes.
They give you what they call political borders. Then if you keep on looking, they even give you what they call cultural borders, as I'm saying it right now, that if you should trace the history of the Tongas along the Zambezi escarpment, from the great Chobe rivers up in Namibia, into Mosiatunya, into Binga, into the southern part of Zambia, into Mozambique, capturing a bit of Malawi, and you look at all that place, had they known that this is where the Tongas were, and they had clustered people almost maybe in ethnic groups, it would have been better. But to put your line across someone's kitchen, someone's bedroom, you just draw a line. They took a ruler in some certain cases and literally put a ruler across. So you need a passport to go to the toilet, and you need a passport to go to the bedroom. It's not practical. Let's firstly maybe just put our heads across that. That in as much as our governments are enjoying these divisions, oh, there's President so-and-so, there's President so-and-so, the very borders that create countries are not legitimate borders. They are political borders, colonial political borders. It's a simple cut and dry. You cannot even talk about the vendors who are found in Zimbabwe and found in parts of Namibia and found in South Africa, right up from Berengwa, Matopo area, into the Chilidzini, PPD, Toyando, into Luhitrikad, and capturing right into Panda Maria, coming all that area. And those are vendors. And you find Mapunguke is here, which is a great stonework in Mapunguke. You find it Zimbabwe is over there, same structures. You find Domboshaba in Botswana, same structures. You cross over into the plains of the Zambezi escarpment, into Mtorashanga and northern parts of, and you'd find a similar culture of architecture, with the great Zimbabwe is the greatest and the biggest of them all. Now, how can you come around as a white man and you fail to see that this is one community here that is living in a certain way? So that now you find that there's a border that is separating Zimbabwe and Botswana, there's a border separating Zimbabwe and South Africa, and then they chip over that other end. So we cannot glorify our enemies. And in our midst of our education, we begin to appreciate and fantasize ourselves around colonial borders. And we forget that, number one, what unites us is not just unity. What unites us, number one, is one piece of land. It's one piece of land. What unites us are our rivers that don't respect the political borders.
Right.
What unites us is our languages that tiptoe across mountains and echo in the valleys and cross over rivers. What unites us is our fashion, where we dress. The Zulus in South Africa, the Zulus in Zambia, the Zulus in Malawi, Zulus in Mozambique, the Ngungunyanes, the Mtetwas, the Kumalos. What unites us is our very color, complexion, Muntu. What unites us is our food, textures, or rhythms, or beats, or cultures, or celebration. And to look at all these things that seem to constantly jump across every border. Every time you talk about Tanzania, you forget Tanzania, Tanganyika. These are the Great Lake regions. Tanganyika, as they used to be called.
Right.
Which included Waganda, which included Rwanda, which included Kenya, Serengeti, which included Tanzania, which included parts of Congo, which included then in even parts of lower parts of Malawi itself, like Nyasa. And you put all this Great Lake region in one thing. And then you come around, even right now as we're speaking, there's a big war between Malawi and Tanzania, Tanganyika, over the great Nyasa Lake, where when they were drawing the British, then they took the map and they went into Tanzania and then drew the line and etc. And Tanzania is saying, no, the line should have been straight.
Right.
Now here are African leaders now arguing over what a white man agreed on. No, he put the line on the wrong place. So when you cross that line, you're now in my land. But who put that line in the first place? Before the line was put, what were we? Our fishermen used to cross over this whole lake from the left and to the right.
Right.
Eating, working, playing, just benefit together. We are free to travel wherever we want and have tourism.
Right.
And there's money there to be made. Free movement of goods. Beautiful context. Fish, flowers, animal, livestock can begin to move. You're no longer limited by bureaucracies. Education. You are able to send your children anywhere in Africa as long as you can afford it. And you don't need visas and etc. It will start running. Marriages, I love that one there. Our children can begin to marry each other and cattle can cross rivers and celebrations can begin to sound. But above that, economic viability of the continent. One currency, one stock exchange, one national army, and one government that will begin to run Africa towards that one voice. So that we can at least politically have a seat at NATO, at the world governing bodies, superpowers, where we can also be counted. Right now, all of us, 55 of us, we don't even have a single seat, not even a secretariat desk where we are considered as human beings. It's North Atlantic Agreement, only for white people. So why are we footnotes? Why are we footnotes on the story instead of being subjects? Why are we waiting for destiny to be determined by other people who must decide? Look at COVID, what it did. Group of white boys discussing what must we do. Hey, close the door, and they make conversations as if we were affected as much as they were. But because we're just followers, dust gatherers behind the European political system. We run behind whatever the white man says. We vaccinated ourselves here. AIDS came up, now COVID came up. Whether it is true or it is false, no one bothers. Our investigators are sitting around. Not even one single solid research has been done to prove and establish to us that these issues are real issues of what we are dealing with. can't tell me that malaria is in Africa and solutions are not in Africa. Why would Bill Gates be looking for new electronic mosquitoes to come and extinguish malaria here? Like really? What else are these mosquitoes going to bite that we don't know? Are they only going to be looking for mosquitoes, or they're coming to bite human beings? But we sit around there as if the white man has the solution. But if I was wicked like they are, I would create the problem and create the solution. And every time foxes are discussing their diet, you can be sure that lambs would be on the menu.
Yes, welcome back, kings and queens, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in the continent, and to those who are in the diaspora. We are here to share our thought from what we heard from our brother, our father, our king, our bishop, Joshua Maponga. Of course, he elaborated a lot concerning about what can we do as the people of Africa to achieve what we want. And of course, he is concentrating on a united Africa, and that is where the solutions of many African challenges are found. If Africans, we want to be respected, we need to come together. For instance, you heard about the issue of having at least single seat in the UN Security Council, but it cannot be happen if we are not united. Just ask yourself, if the Northern Atlantic or the superpower want to give Africa a single permanent seat, who will be given? Nigeria, because of high economy, South Africa, Egypt? Which country will be given the opportunity to be in the UN Security Council? If not those countries, maybe African Union. But remember, African Union is being funded by Europeans, Americans. So those who feed us always controls us. So if you have been funded by America, automatically you will be in the side of America. That's why you see this is a difficult situation where we are talking about demanding the permanent seat in the UN Security Council. Before demanding, let us come together and say we are here. We have a single army, we have a single currency, we have a single passport, we have single leader, or even we have these leaders, but we have someone who is representing us in the global events. But without doing so, it will be difficult. Also, Mr. Maponga has shared his views concerning about the issue of Democratic Republic of Congo and other conflicts in the continent of Africa. You heard a lot that sometimes these conflicts started as tribal wars, but someone put his hand to fuel the conflict. While brothers are fighting each other, their resources have been taken. So we need to wake up. He has given, for example, the issue of Africa. We are sharing rivers, we shared lakes, lands. So there's a lot of things that Africans brought together, but we have been changed our mind to think we are not relatives, we are enemies. So I think the time has come to go back to our basics, to go to the drawing table, to see where we made mistakes and to correct those mistakes in order to start a new journey. And we need to come together. That is the only solution I see, and that's why you see Mr. Maponga also focusing on a united Africa. Let us not speak for too long. Please share with us on the comment section. Please like this video, share our video and other video. We have a lot of video, education video in this channel. We have inspiration video. Of course, we are doing our best to make sure that we share some critical issues concerning about our mother continent Africa. We are trying to find best solutions to our challenges, and that's what we are doing. So kings and queens, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let us not speak for too long. Already Mr. Maponga has explained everything. Thank you, and have a nice time. Thank you.